You are. You're holy and you're mighty and you're worthy. You are. No one compares to you. You're a good God. Even in challenges, even in grief, you're still good. You're a promise keeper and you're good. Yes, you are. I have decided, thank you, God, to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. Sing, I have decided, yeah, to follow Jesus. I have decided, you're so good, to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. 'Cause you are good, you're good. Oh, 'cause you are good King, good Father. Oh, 'cause you are good, you're good. Oh, you're so good to us. You're so good.
Yo, good morning, good morning, good morning. Yo, welcome to Good News today. Yo, we we got a lineup. We got a show today. Listen, send this out. Tell folks to get on. We talking about the culture. We talking about what's going on in the world, and I got some help at the table. So let's go and get it started. Y'all grab your cups of coffee. Let's go. Come on. Hey. Everything. Everything's gonna be okay. Gonna hear some good news today. Come on. Oh, joys, pains, ups, downs are working all day. Everything's gonna be okay. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. Everything's gonna be okay. That whosoever will believe in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. Gonna hear some good news today.
Yo, turn my mic up. Y'all ain't see this coming. Get ready to catch this. Come to snatch your righteous mind, not your edges. God is the goal, and then there's the period. This thing is real. Woo-cha, we serious, intentional, the original. God is in control. Do it for your soul. Gotta let the whole world know. Ayo, ayo.
Everything's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be okay. Gonna hear some good news today. Yo, tell somebody everything's gonna be okay. Put it in the comments. Encourage somebody. Yo, it's so much stuff going on in the culture and in our world, specifically what happened at the Oscars. And I just thought, coming back this week, I want to talk about it and I want to get into some conversation with some of my friends. So I invited some of the homies to the table. Y'all give it up live from the barbershop, Pastor Brian Loritz.
So you know we in the shop, so we gonna talk about it.
We talking barbershop today. We in the shop, so it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. And also, we couldn't do it without my man, Pastor Ricky Jenkins. Come on, give it up.
Fellas, what's going on?
What's happening?
You got it.
Let me do my Albert Tate.
Doc, I love it. In the barbershop, and we gonna talk shop today. Man, what's your barber's name, Brian?
The baddest there is in the triangle, Jarrell. Say what's up to the people, Jarrell.
Jarrell, what's up, Jarrell? Come on.
Hey, Jarrell, we appreciate you for taking 2.5 hours to cut Brian Loritz's head.
You got a big job.
You gonna make me speak in tongues, Ricky?
Because he is ahead of the game.
He's ahead of the game, man.
Yo, all right. So and we got a couple of other folks that'll be joining us in a little bit. But I just I was watching the Oscars and I saw it happen in real time. And for those you don't know, I mean, of course you know. You can't be living in the world and not know what we're talking about. It was weird because first of all, I was like, did that just happen? What just happened? I was trying to wrap my mind around it. Then I was like, that's crazy that just happened. And then it was kind of funny, but man, by the end of the night, it was weird. I was sad. I felt these emotions. It impacted me in a way that I didn't see coming. Y'all, welcome. Hold on. We got to get him in the building. He's here, the one and only, the Prince of Preachers, Golden Mouth, Charlie Dates. Oh, Golden Mouth.
Oh,
Good morning,
man,
Reverend.
Good morning, man. You know, it's so good to see y'all. You know, I just feel like I need to tell the watching world, this is the only time Albert Tate answers my phone calls. So I am just super grateful that I am privileged enough to be on here today.
Oh man, dude, Charlie, so good to have you, man. How did it impact y'all, and why was it such an impact? Why wasn't this just some funny meme or something crazy that just happened? It was like, oh, that's crazy. I feel like this hit different on a different level. Why do you think that is, even for personally and also culturally?
All right, so I'm from the South Side of Chicago, and I'll be honest with you, I have seen people fight in public many, many times. And so to have a fight in public is not necessarily anything new, but I do think it brought back personally that sense of trauma of what in the world this is not the place where something like this is supposed to happen. The other thing, because I've been wrestling with this too, Albert, the best that I've been able to come to so far is you pastor a church where the moniker is made for fellowship. I think this is one of the clearest demonstrations of that. We were made for community. And whether we like it or not, Will Smith and Chris Rock are part of a community that we grew up kind of enmeshed in. And so that old line, whatever happens to one directly happens to all of us indirectly. Culture has created a shared platform or space where they were like people we know. It wasn't just like random people from another part of the world. It's like, no, we know them and we know something about their stories. I think the other thing for me is, you know, Black people were not permitted in that theater at one time. We certainly were not given Oscars for a while. And even now, I think Will Smith is the 5th Black male to get an Oscar or something like that.
Yeah.
In that role. So to see 2 Black guys, for me, do that on an international stage, it hit me, man. It had something pent up on the inside of me for that. Those are my musings.
Yeah,
no,
Charlie,
that's good.
you know, on that note, it hit me the same way. There were several things I was feeling, but I've been wrestling with the question, should we as Black people carry that burden? You know what I'm saying? Is that a fair burden for us to carry? Like, really, 2 Black men in public, putting our stuff out there, you know, as my mama would say, acting a fool in public. There's an added weight that we feel as Black people.
Yeah.
Should we feel that way?
You know, Brian, I think you're making, because our audience is so diverse, can you just unpack the weight that we're talking about and the burden in our culture? Because fellow family, we bringing y'all inside literally the barbershop today. Like we gonna talk today like we would talk as Black men around the barbershop. And the reality is, family, is that there's an internal dynamic with us and what we do inside and what we do outside.
Yep.
So Brian, unpack that a little bit. Wait, but first of all, before you do that, I just want to get him in the conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, Grammy award winning Jonathan McReynolds.
What's up, y'all? I'm just here to be. I'm here to be a fly on the wall, man. Some
No,
incredible people.
get in, man. Well, we in the deep end of the pool, Jonathan. So I'm just gonna have you just jump in with us. But go ahead, Brian. Unpack that burden.
Yeah, there is, so instead of necessarily defining the weight, I'll describe the weight. Like I remember being in seminary, and obviously it's a predominantly white seminary. And it would always be me and one other black person. And I would always feel this weight of I need to be in class on time.
Mm.
Nobody ever told me that.
Mm.
And inevitably, on those moments when the other black person came to class late, there was a sense of embarrassment that I felt. I couldn't tell you how or when that got ingrained into me, but there's this thing when we are in the presence that I feel intuitively. When I'm in the presence of of a majority white context as a minority, there's just this natural thing that I hate, this mechanism in me that says I have to put my best foot forward and prove something. Again, did my parents ever sit me down and tell me that verbatim? No, I did hear the version of you've got to work twice as hard, right? That kind of stuff. But so when the Will Smith thing happened at the Oscars, I've been wrestling with what I don't think I need to carry that weight. Is there something unhealthy with us even carrying or entertaining that question?
That's
I
good.
think Brian's spot on, and I think all of us grew up the same way. I can remember certain African American celebrities, heroes, sports figures who would mess up, and the news is talking about this incident. I can still hear the echoes of my mom saying, "Oh Lord, what is this going to do to us?" And there was just this plural pronounism that I grew up with that reminded me, unfair or not, that there's a weight extended to all of us to shoulder for our entire community, right or wrong. And to Charlie's point, to Brian's point, when I was watching Will, who is a human being, and Chris Rock, who is a human being, I felt a weight with them that I don't think my white brothers and sisters would have felt if it was Bradley Cooper or Brad Pitt doing something. And I think a way forward for our people for how to navigate that is really huge for us today, because that weight after COVID, I think, is officially unbearable moving forward. How do we break away from that weight?
So I sense in that and would agree that we don't need to willingly carry trauma. I do think that there is something about a cultural shared trauma that is inescapable. The reality is we got kids watching. I was just with the sister who runs our staff, and she was saying how her son came back and was like, "Did you see, what Will did?" There's that Charles Barkley line that I'm not your kid's role model. Well, the fact of the matter is, at the Oscars with Black people is still so new for us, new territory. And Denzel is sitting there, who should have got Oscars well before Training Day. That the reality is they are our best, they are our brightest. And to be on an international platform as the best and the brightest, and to do that, whether I want to carry it or not, is just like, come on. And you got to wonder, would Will Smith had done that to a white comedian? Maybe he would have. Or would he have done it to somebody bigger? So those are
Well,
when
he
I'm
definitely
asking the
wouldn't have.
question.
He wouldn't have done it to The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. He wouldn't have done it to him. We know that.
Yeah, no, man. So anyway, that's when I answer that question, Albert. Why is it that it hits differently? I think that's one of the reasons why the trauma feels a bit more shared.
Yeah, and I feel like we've stumbled upon a dynamic there. Jonathan, why do you feel like this hit differently? And we haven't talked, so I don't know how it hit you personally, but in the culture or with you, how did it hit, and why do you feel like it feels a little different?
Well, you know what? This is something I might be reaching just a little bit, but if I synthesize all the stuff that we've kind of been fighting for in my generation, even for the last 5 years or so, there's black excellence and then there's black like mediocrity. Hear me out. Black excellence, I guess we can say now that America's gotten to a place where there is a path for black excellence. You can be like amazing and get all your A's and do what you got to do and be the best and the brightest if you are amongst that elite group that was poised to be the best and the brightest. But then there's this other level where you won't always make the best decisions. You don't always know what to do when the cops pull you over. You aren't always in the best position. You aren't always in the best frame of mind. That's the thing that I still see a huge gap in. If we feel like we could do excellent things, that's what's up. The problem is when we do mediocre things, there's a different consequence. You can be mediocre as a different race and somehow end up as the president. You can be mediocre as a black person and you might end up dead. And so that's the thing, that what we saw was, it was a human moment. It was a mediocre moment. It wasn't the worst moment in the world. It wasn't extremely destructive. Obviously, it wasn't black excellence at its finest, but it's that black mediocrity that we in this generation are trying to figure out. Can we just be regular sometimes? Can we be basic sometimes? Can we be off kilter sometimes? Can we be out of character sometimes and it not be the demise of our career, our lives, and our freedoms? And I think this is one of those moments where I don't even know if people outside of our race are looking at it like this, but definitely as Pastor Dates was saying, it's a trauma thing. As soon as we know that we are being mediocre in this moment, we feel like that's not enough, because America has generally taught us that only our best, only our Sunday best is worthy of presentation.
That's good.
So good.
I think we're wrestling with that, and I think when we look in the comments section, I do think it kind of may be generational too, because we were just trained. You just got to be the best of the best, and we would hear language like, "No, see, that set us back 10 years. That set us back 50 years. That you didn't send us back." And I feel like a younger generation is not buying into that premise, and they're like, "Yeah, no, we can be regular. Forget." I'm gonna say it like this, and y'all, we at the family table, so we just letting y'all in. Is it possible that those of us that are older have been trained to care too much about what white people think, and the younger generation cares significantly less?
I want to be. Go ahead, Albert. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead. I'm just kind of putting it out there. Go ahead.
So I was the exact opposite of Brian in seminary. Predominantly white space, black man. I didn't care what they thought. In fact, if I showed up on time, it's because I wanted to show up on time, and all of the other things that they go. I carry no sense of burden because I was raised knowing that we were not only the descendants of royalty, but that our best was always better than the rest. That's just the way that I was raised. So I never had that. So I want to be clear. I would clarify. I don't feel a burden like representing black people in front of white spaces. I'm more like representing black people in front of black people, in front of our kids. That's not our best and our brightest. And Jonathan is right. It's a human moment. It was not the worst, but that's just not the place to do that. So that's the sense of burden that I have. Who cares what other ethnicities think about us on that platform? We are still pulling each other up to this space. And I think you got all of us on here who preach, and Jonathan who sings. We are raising the standard for the preachers and the singers, musicians, and the others who come behind us to meet that level. That's our obligation. And I think that's what Chris Rock and Will Smith have that night. They got an obligation to us and to the kids coming behind them to do better than that. Not so that Will Smith's son could be like, yeah, that's how we do it. No, that ain't how we do it.
No. Yeah. And I feel like, and then we'll kind of broaden it a little bit because we're really talking about the black community right here. But I got a couple of calls that kind of reflect the diversity of even our perspectives here. One guy who's working in predominantly white spaces, and he was just lamenting the conversations that he's going to be forced into that are awkward concerning how black men looked on TV last night. And then another pastor, and maybe it's these Chicago cats, he's in Chicago, and he was like, man, I'm just personally grieved. It wasn't about white people's perspective. It was just, man, I'm sad, and I'm personally triggered and traumatized by it, because it pointed to something else that I want to talk about. It pointed to, I think, the impact of being silent and our rage. As I sit in the seat of empathy, because everybody's been sitting critically again with these guys, but I want to invite us to sit empathetically with these guys. I personally feel like Will had a breaking moment, a breaking point, that is tied to mental health and just being tired and in probably not having the healthiest outlets to process that rage. What did y'all see mentally going on, or how did that trigger anything within you? How do you empathize with what we know? We know violence is wrong, so that we're not sitting in that seat at all.
Right.
Violence is for sure wrong, but can we see something familiar in what Will was trying to process? Brian?
Yeah, I'll offer this. You know, I read his memoir, and I'm not sure if you guys read it, but it came out last year. Again, we would all agree the way he handled it was not the way to do it. So I don't offer this as an excuse, more or less of a psychological narrative for him. You know, he talks in the opening pages of his memoir of being a little boy watching his father abuse his mother, and him saying, I never did anything to stand up for my mother, and how that narrative began to haunt him. Later on, you know, the original Aunt Viv on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and there's a whole bunch of mess that went on behind the scenes, and her saying to Will, you had power, you never stood up for me. So I think all of that was crashing in on him in that moment, not as an excuse, but him just saying, I'm going to break the narrative of not standing up for women. Now, again, was there a better way to do that? Absolutely. But I think that was his mindset in that moment.
I think that's right, Brian. I felt the same way subjectively watching that. It definitely felt like on a scale of 1 to 10, the moment was maybe a 4 or a 5. Will Smith reacted with a 9 or 10. So we all saw that. But man, I just got to thinking, is there anybody who has performed better and more consistently with at least a reasonable, modicum of character under the pressure and the spotlight of Will Smith in the last 20 years? Denzel's up there, maybe Morgan Freeman. But how many cameras have been on Will Smith, and how well has he shown up, over the course of that time? And it just felt like he was reacting to a lot of moments that he's been through, all of the history that he suffered, like Brian talked about. And it had me thinking, guys, Albert, I don't know if this is where you want to go, but I just got to thinking, yeah, there's a mental health side, but I think there's a spiritual health side too. And it had me thinking, how healthy is it for us to have all of these cameras on us in the way that Will Smith has, and the way that you guys have with your platforms, and the way that I have? It just got me thinking, how long can somebody handle worship? How long can someone handle the weight of having that many eyes on you, that many people watching you, many people scrutinizing your every move? It's surprising to me that there hadn't been many moments like that before. So I don't know if, Albert, if you want to delve into that now, but it had me thinking, man, I don't know if I can handle what Will Smith has to go through every day. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I can handle what Chris Rock goes through and all the others. So I think that's another thing we need to talk about.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see our celebrity culture. And we only got so much time, but we got to also acknowledge how comfortable we are with Chris Rock talking about Jada in that way, and that not even shock us. Well, Chris has trained us that's how he rolls. That's the comedy he does. But that's become so normalized in our culture, and I it's funny watching people in comments grab for morality when there's no centering God. So the
Well, I
culture
mean,
is
to be,
saying, go ahead.
I mean, listen, I'm from the South Side of Chicago. Okay, so I'm from the hood. We that's how we talked. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? And so I guess in retrospect, you say, well, it's never been right per se. But I mean, um, not, and I'm not trying to make light of it. And I heard after the fact that she's made kind of some public statements about how she feels about the condition that maybe caused her to cut her hair up
Yeah,
down
the
or whatever.
alopecia.
Yeah, and so, but to me, all I saw, and I think what a lot of people see, is a beautiful woman who's had short hair and killed short hair for a long time, just being fly, and we weren't thinking or even knowledgeable of a condition, and
Right.
otherwise, it's what culturally we do all the time, and that's talk about people's appearance, and that's compare and say, look at your Kevin Durant looking, you know what I'm saying? Like to me, like that it so I think that was just a moment where I don't believe that. Now again, if we want to talk about morality, spirituality, all those things, Chris Rock maybe was outside of the lines. But when it came to culture, it didn't seem that foul of a play, especially if he is not knowledgeable of the emotional underpinning she might have with that particular condition and what brought. And I don't know. We really, we don't know what Chris knows. We don't know what he knows. But I would just say that's a moment where I'm like, I mean, if we're gonna take that off the table, then we got to take a lot of things off the table when it comes to comedy and stuff like that. And so we would have to redraw the lines of comedy, because I think that a lot of comedians would look at that as a fair play.
It
Unfortunately, I'm
looks
not
like
saying it's a
Will
good thing.
Rap.
I'm just saying like the thing is in this generation, what we're grappling with is everybody has a set of rules, and we might not even know what their set of rules are, and we are in some way responsible for playing with their rules. As a black man, I have rules. As a millennial, I have rules. As a Chicagoan, I have rules. As somebody with glasses, I have rules. And everybody doesn't know those rules and can't abide by those rules all the time. And so my thing is, do we need to up the standard of a comedian or a jokester or somebody saying things, or do we need to up the grace in those moments? But you probably don't know. I mean, like, so I mean, I'm not trying to make light of anything, but I am trying to say on a practical basis, like everybody can look at a basketball game and tell what a travel was and a foul was, but in real time, while things are just flying by, and as a comedian, honestly, if I saw, or even just on stage in general, if I saw Pastor Tate over there, and I wanted to make a joke, I'm making it about him. I'm not going to make it about all these people I don't know and I'm
Yeah.
not comfortable with. I'm going to make it with the one I do know and talk about his bald head. And so, in that way, I would assume that I guess there's safety in that culture. And so, I just wonder if the way people are responding to it is kind of going against that safety that I thought we had when it came to telling jokes.
Well, I think what's happening though, I think there's a shift, particularly with women or people that don't appreciate what's been normalized, and they're just saying, "Yeah, not no more. It's
That's
not
fair.
funny."
That's fair.
And I think we're in a real time shift of that, where someone in the comments just said they struggle with hair loss, and they're just tired of taking it on the chin. They're just tired of that being open.
But
Maybe
Pastor
the
Tate,
dozens, maybe the dozens has been a part of the culture, but maybe it needs to be lifted a little bit. Or
that's what I'm saying. It's always funny until it happens to you.
exactly, as
That's the
Mike Tyson
problem.
say.
That's the
Yeah,
problem.
yeah, yeah. Until
It's
as
not.
Mike
It's
Tyson
not.
say, everybody got something to say, and everybody know what to do until you get hit in the mouth. And then it's like, what? But so no, I agree with you in your analysis of our culture. I just think there's a demographic that's saying, all right, let's change it. And this is a moment where we need to make a shift. What do you? So what is, we talked about mental, talked about the dynamics spiritually as the people of God. How do we, what do we need to be, how do we need to be showing up in this space, and what's missing from this conversation that might lift it from the people of God? Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah. So before we get spiritual, can we talk? I know it's only dudes on
We,
here,
we've been spiritual the
but
whole
yeah.
time. We've been
So
spiritual the whole time.
number one, Jonathan McReynolds is one of the smartest people any of us know. I just want to go on record and saying that. A lot of people don't know his IQ is like off the charts. So I thought that was very insightful in terms of the grounds of free speech, because in America, this ain't a cultural thing. This is part of our fabric. As
Yeah.
America, you have freedom of speech. Now the challenge is you got to deal with the consequences of that free speech. And one of the other aspects then that this turns on, because Albert, you said, or Ricky was saying, somebody was saying, Will was laughing at first. He was going along with it. I think Jada has a bigger role in this, in letting Will get up there and do that. I think at some point she has to be the one who says, now look, the joke was inappropriate, but you sit down. This is a big moment. You don't go up there and do X, Y, and Z. So all of this talk about, and some people call it patriarchal tropes and this, that, and the other, he's protecting her. Man, she failed him. She failed
I
him
want
in that
Okay.
moment.
I want to
Okay.
echo that. I'm not gonna say it. I'm gonna let Charlie
We
be the
going
one.
there. Okay, we going there. We go.
Charlie said it. I want to go on record.
Charlie
Oh,
said
we
it.
going
For the
there.
record, Charlie said it. His email is Charlie at. But, a lot of talk has been about, he's defending her, he's protecting her, and yeah, Chris Rock made a below the belt joke. All of that, that's worthy of a conversation. But at no point was Jada unsafe. At no point was she at risk to be harmed, at least physically. Now, I was raised, somebody mess with your wife, that's the end of it.
Right.
Somebody jumping on April, I'll see y'all later. I'm going to jail the rest of my life. But some words, we got to come up with new ways to kind of honor them in that moment. So at some point, can we have that conversation?
Yeah. So Denise says, lady says, but Jada, like all of us, probably didn't expect him to reach back to Philly and slap Chris. So, but I guess he walking up on the stage, I don't know.
No, that's it.
Yeah,
The moment
yeah.
anybody who's married, maybe I don't know about the women y'all married to, but the moment I get up, Kirsty is coming to me. She ain't watching me going, oh, let's see how this plays out.
Yeah. No, and here's it. I think. Go ahead, Brian. Go ahead.
If I can jump in real quick, Albert. And see, I think this is a great discussion. I mean, so there's the race element in all this. There's the gender element. It was even interesting on social media, watching the disparity of perspectives on protection from women.
Yes.
That was
Yes.
that was enlightening to me in a lot of ways. And I think what women need to understand is there is this visceral thing that we as men feel. So I'm putting myself in Will's shoes. Again, what he did was wrong. But I chalked his laughter up to nervous laughter, not an endorsement. Then you look at your wife and you see her expression and you realize, oh, my girl is hurting right now. There's just this thing in us men that just rises up in us. And I wish women could understand that better. I'm not saying that thing should then lead us to the stage and hit somebody, but it's a visceral thing that we feel as men to protect.
Yeah. I think a couple of things. I think we're giving the male perspective. And one day, maybe I can pull some sisters on here. Maybe I can recruit a couple of sisters to come on here and give their perspective on what we're talking about now. But it's intentionally just kind of talking through from the male perspective. As I listen to women smile and celebrate and feel vindicated and protected by Will, I'm also cautioned and concerned about the signal that we're sending to men on how we are to protect them.
Oh, absolutely.
I think to affirm this kind of behavior, we as men can't afford to walk around slapping people that say offensive things about our wives. Like, it just goes bad really quickly. I don't know about y'all. I've been in the position before where a police officer was disrespectful to my wife and to my mother-in-law. And and man, let me tell you, something happened in me. And my wife saw it. He said something smart back to her, and I just said, "Sir, such and such." And she, to your point, Charlie, she knew what she knew. I just flipped, and she knew that I was about to go there with him. And she grabbed my arm and she literally started cutting me off, saying, "Babe, babe, babe, babe," because I was about to go after him. And at that point, jail, fighting, that it was all you. You were not about to disrespect my wife. My wife, having a bigger vision for our whole family in that moment, says, "I'd rather us go home with him making that comment than you not come home at all." And when we signal affirmation towards violence to men in honor of protection, we're signaling and inviting a level of danger that I'm not sure we're counting the cost of. Like it's serious. And what if Chris Rock would have swung back? What if
And he
Chris,
should have.
yeah.
He should not have, but he should have.
I mean, what the headlines? Or what if he, like me? I don't know about y'all. If I've been punched in the mouth before. I had a guy in the 6th grade punch me in the mouth. Let me tell you something. If I had a gun, I wouldn't have talked. I wouldn't. He had the best of me. He beat me up. He got me. But the
Was it
anger,
you, Ricky? Was it you, Ricky?
No, it wasn't Ricky. I could have took Ricky. He was bigger than Ricky.
I was the one in the 5th grade.
But the anger of embarrassment and having your ego bruised, bro, you lose logic. So violence just gets really dangerous, and we've just seen a lot of death in our community. We can't afford to play around with that.
Yo, though. Who is that Jonathan is in the car with?
Oh, I'm here with my best friend. We out in Dominican Republic. I got a couple friends out here. We are celebrating her birthday. But if you need a female perspective, I got 2 of them.
No.
I got 2 of them.
No. Albert,
you-
I was just saying that was gonna make Ebony Jet magazine right there.
Oh, okay. That was he out chilling in Dominican Republic.
Yeah, we got.
Is there? Have they been listening to the conversation? I mean, the ladies are getting on us in the comments because we ain't got no ladies on. Although it was just the men's perspective. I wasn't trying to get into all of this today, but
No, they're getting on you. You're the one who put this together. They're not getting on us. They're getting on you.
thanks for clarifying that.
But you know what? I got to say something, Pastor Tate. Listen, I've done a lot of these things. You know me. I've done a lot of outreach and conversations and stuff like that. And let me just say that it's weird because we are the gender that we have power and stuff like that, all that stuff. But we actually don't hear each other's opinions that much.
As far
Like,
as men,
like
oh
on a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
of things.
Oh, especially
a lot
black
of things
men.
we're Yeah, we're quiet, you know what I'm saying? And we don't have a lot of forums that we do air our opinion. We don't have a lot of memes that parrot our opinion all the time. And the ones that do, kind of give a certain black male perspective, they're normally pretty ridiculous. So like, ladies, hear us out for a second. Like, just hear us out. These are some legit dudes that, that mean complete well and are kings and only look at you as queens. And so I think actually, can y'all give us just 1 second? You know what I'm saying? Like,
come on, McReynolds. Come on.
man.
Come on.
I mean, they'd be like, what? We got something to say. I was like, dang, we ain't say. All right, anyway, I'm sorry.
No, that's good. That's good. All right, y'all. I feel like we got to do a part 2. I feel like we were just starting to get in trouble. Like we was just getting into it. Like it was just about to get real. I do think though, it will be a great conversation to talk about. I think, and Jonathan is right. Much respect to that. We need to process this because we don't we don't process this stuff. People assume we do. We really don't. We really don't sit and process our emotions and how we feel and what we think about this. I think it would be important to understand how we protect our women, Black women, Asian, Latino women, our women, how we protect our women. And obviously great to listen to women and say how they want to be protected and what that looks like. And then our interpretations, because we may not be seeing this thing the same way.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and I think there is a historical argument to be made whenever we do get back. There was a time when black men were totally powerless against the system to stand up for our women, and to see how that has played through in our culture, to hear those responses, Albert, I think you're right. May not even just be helpful for us, but to succeeding generations. Because remember now, our kids are watching what happened, and it's forming in their minds how they as boys will protect the women that they one day marry and care for.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Closing thoughts. Closing thoughts. We'll make around the loop. Jonathan, what's the closing thought on this one?
Closing thought is you're absolutely right. That we have to figure out and get some common ground. There's some clear enmity between particularly the black woman and the black man. And I want to figure out what they want from us so we can stop failing them. And so they can stop looking at these moments of like, kind of maybe unnecessary aggression as, yep, that's what we need. No, you need something from us. I don't know if that's what it is, but let's get together and figure it out.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Brian?
My closing thought is really a closing question, and that closing question is, and you alluded to it, Albert, with the younger generation of African Americans, from your perspective, not feeling that weight that we talked about,
Yeah.
is that a sign of racial progress? Is that a goal where we don't want the next generations to feel the weight that we felt, or should that be something that we always carry? That's more of a question.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. We stumbled onto something with that dynamic, and I think you and Charlie's perspective and angles on the same, it produces the same. We need to be better, and we need to be our best. What's fueling that? A healthy version of fueling that, and an unhealthy dynamic that fuels that. I feel like that's a significant conversation. Ricky.
Yeah, guys, it's just good hanging out this morning. I think moving forward, as you think about mental imbalance, cultural disruption, everything that's gone on the last couple of years, George Floyd, politics, you name it. I just want to encourage everybody watching as we move forward in these moments of culture, we don't get to not normalize these conversations and creating these spaces where we can healthily, if I can invent an adverb, process what's going on. We don't get to just kind of treat it as, oh, okay, this happened and blah, 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 and keep on moving. But this triggers stuff in us that's so deep that we have to normalize these spaces. Small group, you know what I'm saying? Your peeps in the barber shop. But I just want to encourage everybody out here, find spaces that are safe like this one to converse and heal and move forward. I love this today.
Charlie?
Yeah, thank you, Albert, and to everybody else too. I would say that trauma is compounded. That you listen to the Will story a bit that Brian shared, and what we've learned. If you don't read your own life while you're reading everybody else's books, you can miss how trauma is compounding the trajectory of your own life. That stuff has to be dealt with, because next thing you know, you make a decision in a moment that's linked to 45 others that you did not make down through life, which can be detrimental. So maybe everybody should go see somebody, and try to work through some of the trauma that you faced.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like many of us are triggered, experiencing trauma, and we're tired.
Yeah.
And I would say, look at Jada, look at Chris, look at Will, friends, look at them through the lens of empathy. Because if we look closely, we may see some of ourselves in all of them, in areas of our life. I feel like, man, the last few years have been hard, and check on your soul. Take the temperature of your soul and invest in your soul. Jesus and therapy, as I think
Jackie Hill Perry,
Jackie
yep,
impressed
and
it.
Preston, yep.
They say that. I think that's a great combination, and I think this was a great conversation. If something irritated you, that means it was probably a good conversation. If you disagree with something on here, it was probably a good conversation. I thank you guys for listening in and tuning in and giving us room to flex and not be politically correct and not be all that. So if somebody says something you don't like, don't go and try to cancel them. Pray for them, and let's keep having these conversations because they make us better and we learn from one another. Love y'all. See y'all tomorrow, fellas. Yo, I think I got a show idea. The brothers in the barbershop. Let the brothers be heard. Let
That's
the
what I'm
brothers
talking
be
about.
heard.
Perfect time, and we done it. Wasn't 2.5 hours either, Ricky.
It took a long time though, Doc. He went round and round that thing a couple of times, Doc. A couple of times. All right, y'all. Have a good one. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Love y'all, man.